Wing Nation here at Racing Electronics at PRI. Steve Post here with the 10-time World of Outlaw champ, Donny Schatz. Hello, Donny. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself, Steve?
I am doing fantastic. Okay, I've got a question that I've been curious about all along. Tony, not all along, just recently, Tony Stewart as a dad. Do any of us think that's a good idea?
Well, what we think is a good idea and what reality has in front of us today are two completely different things. You know, I haven't got to meet Dominic yet, but Tony's exuberance and joy has been through the roof. We've seen photos. In fact, we've seen videos last night of Dominic's first trying to catch snowflakes in his mouth, and Tony was beside himself. So, you know, when you have aspirations to have a child and do that, I'm super happy for him. Kind of jealous in some senses, you know. He waited long enough for sure, but I guess waited long enough to have the perfect scenario.
Yeah, we bust on it, but I have a hunch that Tony's going to be a really, really, really good dad, that's for sure. He's also a team owner for 25 years, Donny. You've been such a big part of that. A big celebration earlier this week over at the race shop. 25 years, that's an amazing long run for a team owner.
Exactly. What's even more odd is someone to be there 18. You know, I've been with Tony 18. It all started with Danny Lasowski, and he's had some of the greatest drivers, USAC teams, now drag teams. The evolution of it's great. You know, Tony's really the ultimate boss. You couldn't ask for a person that's he's give us all the tools that we've ever needed to do the job, and doesn't stand on our hands, doesn't tell us what to do. And there's days that are very frustrating, as with anything in this business. And, you know, he's not standing there, you know, criticizing or doing things. So I think he enjoys that side of it as much as we enjoy being a part of his organization. But 25 years is huge. Can't thank him enough for the opportunity for us. And always had great people. So there's been a lot of people that made that possible. But ultimately it's on him, and he's made it work.
18 years for you and him is a long, long time, and I know there's been moments where it's, as you talk about, is it just that shared passion that has allowed us to thrive and succeed for this long?
You know, I came to Tony when things were just starting to go my way, and I had never driven for I was never a hired driver. I drove for a family, so, you know, that's a critical move. Had something like that happen prior to that, my position in life, I probably wouldn't be a driver at Tony Stewart Racing for 18 years, but that's what this game's all about, is timing. On the racetrack, off the racetrack, when this happens, when that happens. And, you know, I think him and I are a lot alike competitively. We think the same way. In fact, our real boss, Brett, has told us that he thinks that me and Tony came from the same mold, but I hope that's not the case. But, you know, I think we're both fiery, passionate, and no holds barred with certain things. So, yeah, we're a lot alike. But at the end of the day, when I get in the car, I don't think about him being the owner. I think about it as if it was my own, and I've always treated his equipment that way, with respect, and try to bring everything back that I could, get the most out of it, and have a lot of fun in the process. And I think that's something that we take for granted sometimes. Obviously, we heard Tony say it yesterday, this has been fun. And we lose sight of that racing 80, 90 nights a year and take for granted because we have bad nights and all that. But at the end of the day, what drew us to this sport was the fun, and that's why we love it. So we will definitely share that to the end.
You mentioned bringing the car home. There's a narrative out there right now talking about aggressive driving. That's been really the hot topic in the sprint car world, really since the season. Some midget incidents and everything like that. Donny, and yet I look at it and it's like, well, Steve Kinzer was pretty hardcore, and Sammy Swindell would mix it up with you. Has it changed, or is there a difference? How has that evolved?
Yeah, I think it's still evolving. You know, you get people look up to you all the time. I get people come up and say, I respect the way you drive, I respect you do this. And then there's other people that have you know, they think it's at all costs, over, through, on top of, whatever it takes. Growing up from a family-owned team, you know, my father never gave me a hard time about tearing stuff up, but he also made me be there working on it, so I knew how to fix what I crashed. And then when it come time to have our own team and race on the road, I had to make sure and understand what this cost and take care, you know, the financial side of it as well. And so I think there's a it's not a huge group of people, but there's a small group of people that never ever understand that there's more than just getting in the car and putting a helmet on and try to be, there's a level of, I guess we could call it a gentleman's agreement, but it's really not. It's really respect. So is it right and wrong? I don't know. I'm not going to throw rocks at it. I respect some of the, I've had trouble with guys and they've said, I don't want to be like that. I want to fix it. And then you see them and you think, man, they're doing a great job. They've tried to clean the way they do things up here. They're not driving over people. And then, like you say, you go watch these races here coming up a month ago or so, and you say, that guy just got done telling me he didn't want to do that in here. He's done it not tonight, this night, 3 nights in a row. But that's racing. This is unpredictable. It's not scripted, so that's why we have all this. Everybody beats to a different drum, and that's kind of probably what draws the fans to it.
I am sure of that. That is for sure. You've talked about a family team. You've talked about people looking up to you. Your niece's program, and we've asked you about that so long. You actually had one of your nieces go to the Dome, which I'm not sure I'd take one of my daughters to the Dome to watch. But you had one of your nieces go down there and race. Where are they at with their programs, and how is that going?
So it's a funny story. The Dome. She got invited. She'd signed up for the thing and eventually got the invite. Well, she was planning on going and not telling me, and because they knew I'd say no. And believe you me, I would have said no, but we've gotten to the point where they're 17 now. They got to get out and start racing. So, I look at it. This is what my dad did. You want to be a wolf, you got to get out and hunt with the wolves. And so we planned to go, and I just thought, well, what are really our expectations here? Yeah. This is probably one of the toughest late model races, but it's a great event, so we're going to go as spectators anyway. I've had a car there for Brandon Shepherd in the past. What are our expectations? And I just said, I don't know that you can really have any going to that race. We want to be a part of it. She went there. She made every time she was on the track, she made good laps. She didn't do anything wrong, cause any altercations. She had someone mad at her. I'm not really sure why. It doesn't really matter. You're going to have that in racing. And it rolled in the trailer, and we didn't do any damage to things. So it was a very valuable experience, and I think that it was probably the right thing to do. So I may not have agreed with it at first, but man, she had a great time. I had a great time. It was a cool event. If you don't go to that race and you don't get goosebumps for at least 2 minutes watching the intros, standing there in person, there is something wrong with you. Yeah. And it is actually a pretty cool event, but I think that's where their program's at. That's, we're trying to get them out and going racing. Layla's going to the shootout here in a couple weeks, running a micro for the first time. So I got to let the reins off. I got to let them get out there and get racing. Just try to keep up with it on the financial side, and that's the tough part too. But I guess they'll have to capitalize on their opportunities.
I was going to ask you the next question about the off-season, but you've already been to the Dome. I hear the shootout is this now Donny Schatz off-season?
Yeah, I've had a great time at home. I've had a month now, kind of get settled. But yeah, it's time to get back racing. We had the Dome, we got the shootout. We're going to go race in Arizona with both late models with both girls in January. Grandma's got a house there, so that makes it really fun for everybody to go. My dad used to enjoy going to Arizona, so. We're going to go do that, and then obviously Florida's going to start right about that same time. So it's time to get up and go, but that's the off-season. As long as I'm not behind the wheel, it still feels like off-season being at the racetrack, and probably a little bit more fun for me some nights.
Some nights, there we go. Donny, we always appreciate the time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Donny Schatz joining us here on Wing Nation at the Racing Electronics display.